Hi, I am Shrikal Bista and I am going to talk about the case of Mr. and Mrs. Balfour. Let's talk about facts. The fact is, Mr. Balfour was a civil engineer and worked for the government as the director of irrigation in Cyclone, now also known as Sri Lanka. Mrs. Balfour was living with him in 1915. They both came back to England during Mr. Balfour's leave. But Mrs. Balfour had development and disease, also named as rheumatic arthritis. Her doctor advised her to stay in England because a jungle climate would be detrimental to her health. As Mr. Bedford's boat was about to set sail, he promised her £30 a month until she came back to Ceylon. They drifted apart, and Mr. Balfour wrote saying it was better that they remain apart. In March 1918, Mrs. Balfour sued him to keep up with the monthly £30 payment. In July, she got a decree nisi, and in December she obtained an order for alimony. At first instance, Sergeant J held that Mr. Balfour was under an obligation to support his wife. Now, the issues. A couple claimed verbal understanding where he embraced to permit her £30 in a month in light of her consenting to bolster herself without calling upon him for further maintenance. Does the spouse guarantee to pay £30 for every month constitution a legitimate contract which can be sued upon by her significant other? Now let's talk about rules. Understanding amongst a couple to give cash are the most part not a lawful restricted contract. The issue for the case is to bolster assertion among Mr. and Mrs. Balfour where there was no binding of law lawfully which are made as residential settings. Assumptions are the Court of Appealing unanimously held that there was no enforceable agreement, although the depth of their reasoning differed. Warrington L.J. delivered his opinion first, the core part being this passage. The matter really reduces itself to an absurdity when one considers it, because if we were to hold that there was a contract in this case, we should have to hold that with regard to all the more or less trivial concerns of life, where a wife, at the request of her husband, makes a promise to him. This is a promise which can be enforced in law. All I can say is that there is no such contract here. These two people never intended to make a bargain which could be enforced in law. The husband expressed his intention to make this payment and he promised to make it and was bound in honor to continue it so long as he was in position to do so. The wife, on the other hand, so far as I can see, made no bargain at all. That's, in my opinion, sufficient to dispose of the case. Now let's talk about conclusion. As I would like to think the husband broke the agreement between life partner on the ground that there is no composed contract, yet reliability, trustworthiness, yet he didn't demonstrate his significant other. Furthermore, as per the law, completely concur with the court in light of the fact that there is no composed contract. As we additionally know, each guarantee made by us couldn't satisfy each day by their life. It can likewise be constructed and merit versus merit case. In this court held, the assumption in local course of action could be countered when there was confirmation of a goal to make lawful relations. Thus, here the husband promise did not rise to the level of contract, so in my opinion, that is sufficient to dispose the case. Thank you.